Welcome to Your Epic Pursuit. I'm Mike Mooney, and I'm so glad you're here today. This is a space that I've created for us to be able to dive into inspiring and real conversations with people to explore their leadership journeys as well as how they've found an edge for performance. And the conversation is going to be shared through the epic lens of excellence, presence, intentionality, and curiosity. The goal is really simple. We want to be able to share with you insightful, empowering tools and ideas that are going to help accelerate your journey. And today we're joined by Chris McKee. He is the Director of Global Partnerships for Motorsports for FloSports. And Chris, I got to tell you, I'm really excited about today's conversation because you are someone that I've known for over 2 decades through motorsports, have an incredible career in so many different areas. And I'm just excited just to kind of learn more about where you've been and what you've been doing along the way, man. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike Mooney. I appreciate that. I'm excited as well. And yeah, what a journey it's been. When you put it like
Yeah.
that, I've known you for over 2 decades. Kind of makes me feel a little old.
The lower back starts to tighten up just a little bit, right? You start thinking about the compression socks and all the things that go along with that, right?
Sure. And instead of use the word old, let's use the word mature
But
instead.
sure, seasoned veterans, perhaps, right? I love it,
Love
man.
it.
I love
I
it.
love
Well, no, on a serious note, though, my friend, there are people who are in motorsports and they've experienced it through one sort of lens, whether it's marketing or maybe it's public relations or maybe it's with a team or maybe it's with a media outlet or a track, and that's great. They great runs doing that, and then there are folks like yourself. I mean, my journey a bit similar too, where you've had the opportunity to experience the sport from media, teams, sponsors, across the board, all the different track for that matter, driving experiences. Like I'm trying to
it.
think of all your places, right? So maybe just kind of take us high level of where the journey has taken you, where you've been, and then a little bit about where you are today with Flow Sports.
Sure. Well, go back to the beginning of how I got into motorsports. I was coming out of college. A radio DJ was my dream. Coming out of school, and was fortunate to do that in the Charlotte market for about 10 years or so. But got entangled, for lack of a better for lack excuse me for lack of a better term, and with some folks in NASCAR world. Went to school with some of them growing up.
Okay, I'm glad you clarified that because entangled could infer other legalities or things like that. So these are people you
uh,
knew who were
went
looking out for you, perhaps, to say,
sure,
"Hey,
sure. Went to school with the Wheeler family, of Humpy Wheeler fame
yeah,
and Charlotte
absolutely,
fame.
yep,
Went to school also with the Sabatas family, with
yeah,
their patriarch of Felix Sabatas, who's
Felix,
been around
absolutely,
for a long, long time. And so through them, got introduced to the Petty family, and one thing led to another. I got offered to go work for the king, in an
okay." Well, was that one of those things where it's like like I don't want to say it's like the mafia where they make an offer you can't refuse, but I mean that's like royalty right there. When the king says we want you to come work for us,
well,
is that really like even a decision?
I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I knew that this was a unique opportunity, to go work, as you mentioned, for the Richard Petty driving experience, which
Yeah.
transitioned into working with the race team at Petty
Mhm.
Enterprises for a while as well. Left there, to go to the sponsor side when Aflac,
Mm.
uh, involved in the sport,
Yep.
with Carl Edwards and Roush Fenway, which was part of your background, of course, and how
Yeah,
we first, I guess we got together in the RPDE days as well.
that's right.
Uh, and then from there, you mentioned the media side. I had another what I would consider legendary career path. Took me to MRN, the Motor Racing Network.
Yes, the voice of
Yes,
NASCAR,
the
basically.
voice of NASCAR,
Yeah.
fondly referred as the voice of NASCAR. Had a great run there, outstanding, and just what a legacy that the MRN is and
Yeah.
has continues to be in the sport.
Yeah.
And then Flow Sports came around. Flow Sports, for those of you who don't know, is an app, a sports streaming app, much
Mm.
like Hulu or Netflix and things along those lines. That's where Flow comes in. It's named Flo after the founder of FloSports, Mark Floriani.
Hmm,
Long
nice.
story short, him and his brother were college athletes, and they moved from the Chicago area to go to the University of Texas in Austin, and wanted to figure out a way where they could show their sports activities to the family and friends back in Chicago area, and they started streaming it. They got a camcorder,
I
hooked it
agree.
up with a computer, and sent it over the internet, if you will, and so people back home could watch it. And that's how it started. And there are now Flow Racing, but that's one of 20 plus verticals, including Flow Wrestling and Flow Track and Field and Flow Cheerleading, etc. So
So is it's really like niche sports that you wouldn't find elsewhere besides maybe, and I say it tongue in cheek, the Ocho, that
correct.
would, yeah,
That's the backbone of it, but
yeah,
certainly, here in Charlotte where I am, and of course a lot of the NASCAR community is here, we're the official streaming partner of NASCAR.
yeah, it's great.
So we are aligned in that aspect with a big brand.
Yeah.
We're also aligned in the college space with some very very outstanding college conferences as well around the country.
Fantastic. So they were building out their motorsports platform and programming and took a look and said, "Hey, we need someone who understands the landscape, understands media, understands, engaging with teams, right, as well as
Yeah.
venues," and said, "Hey, Chris, why don't you come over and help us?"
Sure, sure, and to break it down, that actually came when they got engaged with NASCAR to have a
Yeah,
really deep relationship and formed a partnership
yeah,
3 years ago. That's where my name surfaced up, and they wanted somebody to handle that piece of business, and it's transformed. Now, I think I've told you before, it's not just cars going in circles, but I also work in our drag racing space, snowmobile racing, motorcycle racing, and dirt. I work on the dirt field as well. So,
nice.
uh, it's all over the place, and it's kind of refreshing. Every day it's different, which makes it kind of fun.
Well, it is, right? I mean, it's the diversity, but also what that allows you to do, in my opinion, is really be able to leverage the whole of your experience, right? So if you think about your leadership journey and the work that you've done from radio to being the GM at MRN, working on the race teams, the sponsor, like now you can apply those lessons. And I think that's kind of the beauty we talked earlier about. Okay, maybe we won't say old, but seasoned or veterans, that you have perspective. Yet I've always known you to be someone who is very curious, right? And one of the pillars of Epic being curiosity, and it's not coming in with preconceptions. So it sounds like, the opportunity with Flow Sports was to come in and look at it through kind of a fresh lens, right? But leverage the experience you've had along the way.
Yeah, that's very accurate, Mike. And ironically, I wrote a book called The Power of One. You may have Power of One More.
Hmm.
I forgot the author's name, but the in the chapter
I think it's
that
Ed
I'm
Milet. Isn't that Ed Milet? The
that's
power of,
correct. That is
yeah,
correct.
yep,
And right now, the chapter I'm on is about not living in the past and thinking about the future, and it leads me to the concept of trying to stay in the world of naivety,
yeah,
being curious. You use the word curious, being naive, and some days I have to remind myself of that because I think I'm a much better thinker, big picture and even micro, when I practice that naivety to something and not
yeah,
fight the fact that we're seasoned veterans in motorsports. Don't let that work against me, let that work for me, but that
yeah,
I have an open mind to be naive and be curious on what's next and
yeah.
not locked into, "This is the way we've always done it, so here's how we're gonna do it." You said it best, look through it
Yeah.
through a new lens.
Yeah, I've seen that movie before. Don't waste your time. And if you're leading a team, that's the absolute killer for anybody coming up with ideas for innovation or new ideas, is going to a leader who says, "Yeah, been there, done that. Don't waste your time. Let me tell you how that's going to work out." I mean, it's. I think not only practicing it for ourselves to approach new opportunities through that lens of what if, how could, it's also if we're leading people, showing them and saying, "Yeah, come with the idea. I may have perspective on how this worked 10 years ago or an experience. It doesn't mean that that's how it's going to unfold or play out today because the resources might be different. The situation might be different, whatever that might be. But I think that's a healthy lens to go through because it's also pulling us to grow and not
Sure,
sort of
sure.
settle in, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I always you mentioned the word growth too. I think you can never stop growing, right?
Mm, no.
And wanting to move the ball forward in anything I do, and to I like to stay busy as well. I think, things and it keeps my brain active, right, and makes me a better thinker, both morning and nighttime, and not get caught up with the power of one. And that power of one more talks about how the clock, right, and to take
Mm,
time, get the concept of time. Don't be locked into it. Be more open to the fluidity of the day and what it brings you.
I like it. Staying in the flow. Staying in
There
the
you
flow,
go. I like
right?
what you.
See
That's
see,
pretty good.
and
That's
comedy,
good.
that's a callback right there.
Yeah,
Also,
there you go.
that is about brand integration as well. So, there you have it. There you have it. So Chris, as we're thinking about leadership, you're thinking about your journey, where you've been, where you are, we're all faced at times where we have to make some decisions, right? Maybe it's for ourselves, maybe it's for the team, but it's a decision that maybe in the moment feels bold, feels a little different. We talk about growing, and sometimes that's the only way that we can grow is to make a bold, different decision. Because if nothing changes, then guess what? Nothing changes. So, was there a time in your journey where you made a decision that I don't want to say everyone questioned? Maybe some people were like, maybe even you were like, "Oof, it's a bit of a gut check," right? But ultimately led to a different outcome. Maybe it was better for you, for your journey as a leader, maybe better for the organization. But I'm curious, like, was there a time like that? And if so, could you just unpack that a bit for us?
Fantastic question, Mike. And there's a couple that pop into my mind. I think my time at Motor Racing Network (MRN) was interesting, and one decision. It didn't happen overnight. It was, to your point, it was long thought out, and
Yeah.
I waited for a while before I really got aggressive about it. But that was making some talent personnel changes.
And this is when you were GM, right? You were general manager
Yeah.
of the network. I mean, you weren't selling ad
No,
space.
business.
This was your ship that you were
Well,
trying to
David Hyatt
capture.
was the president. I was his right hand guy, sort of
Yeah.
in a business development
Yep.
role. Yeah, and I
And
mean,
it's an institution. This is an institution within the sport.
agreed, and in a position that I didn't take very lightly, right?
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I the heritage of those 3 letters and the sport in general and all that, so, making any tweaks, was a heavy burden at times, in a good way, right? In a
Right.
good way,
Right.
not negative, but we did not have a ton of diversity. We had no female voices on the air, for
Yeah.
much of the time I was there. So, there had been some in the past, a couple of names that come to mind. Daniel Fry,
Yep. Remember
Adrian
that?
Spann, Kendra Jacobs, but at the time, we had gone a couple of years without anybody, and, sort of got lucky that a Miss Sprint Cup, a girl by the name of Kim Kuhn,
Yeah.
uh,
Absolutely.
had a 5-year run as Miss Sprint Cup,
Yep.
representing NASCAR and Sprint, the brand, and, she was thinking about doing something different, and I tell myself I was in the right place at the right time to get introduced to her, bring her into the family, and she had an outstanding run at MRN as a pit reporter and content creator. It was fantastic, and now, she went on to NBC doing TV. She's now at the CW doing all the Xfinity races on NASCAR, this season, and has just blossomed, and
So good.
that as great as that story sounds and has a nice, wonderful ending,
Yeah.
making that change in the moment, to your point, there was not, popcorn and ice cream and cake and stuff being passed around at the time. It was like,
Yeah.
"Why are we doing this? Do we really need to do this? Do we what" because
Mm.
MR the great thing about it is just so consistent, um, wonderful voices, people who
Yes.
know the sport backwards. The
Yeah.
chemistry of calling a race is
Well,
very Very specific. Yeah.
It's very precise, right? And if you're ever listening on broadcast and you understand how they do it, you understand how intentional they are when someone's reporting out, or calling something in a turn, and they say, and they mention Chris. Well, then they're throwing to Chris next. So Chris is getting, like, you understand, like, this is a well-oiled machine. There's a lot that goes into making it feel seamless for the listener,
Right,
right?
right.
Because that's what they
Yeah,
expect.
and at the same time, they're, telling the story of the race too. So
Yeah, yeah,
she came in as a, knowing the sport, having worked 5 years around it. So when
right.
when we put her on pit road, um, she just fit right in, and it was just a great asset to the team, and
Yeah,
it's been really fun to watch her blossom, and again, those other blazers, Angie and Danielle and Kendra, um, all did a wonderful job as well, but
yeah,
my time there was sorta getting the baton started with Kim, and it was great, it worked out well, but,
yeah.
um, made the decision, brought it out there, put the case study in front of everybody, and we made it work, and it ended up pretty well.
No, I think it's great. So the element of that is you have to sort of trust your gut. But the other thing that's interesting too, and it's tough when it comes to change, especially um, when it comes to, like, it's like, hey, what if we upset the apple cart? What if we take this good thing and we completely upset the chemistry, right? And there's always that risk when we're trying something new. um where there's some small steps, or maybe like the pit road, like, I'm just trying to think through, like, from a standpoint of how you brought this to life, to say, look, I'm not talking about someone new going up into the booth. We're talking about how do we break them in, and we're going to make sure that they get the training, and we've got some prep work we're going to do in advance, and calling the race, and we're going to get them completely up to speed so they're comfortable and they feel confident, because I'm sure she had to feel the same way of saying, okay, look, there have been a few before me. Here's an opportunity that I want to keep, blazing a trail. So I'm sure that there's some nerves on her end that you've got to also kind of, not just calm, but more importantly, empower, right?
I think she was ahead of the game in so many ways from a
Mhm.
media perspective, having been in front of the camera quite a bit. Her
Yeah.
job at the Sprint Cup was going to local TV and radio stations when NASCAR would come and market. So
Yeah.
that part of the puzzle wasn't too out of the box, but to your point, and she'll admit, I think that it gave her a heartburn, and certainly us too behind the scenes of, you know, that's a very somewhat controlled environment.
Mhm.
Fast forward to a NASCAR race when you're waiting, the producer is going to call on you, could call on you at any second,
Yeah.
and you know that you have a 7 to 15-second window to fill as a pit reporter. What are the fewest words you can use to get a message and a story about pit
Yeah.
stop or something that's going on with the team you're covering in 7 to 15 seconds? For those of you at home, I challenge you to try that right now in the comfort of your own home.
Yeah.
Think about doing it in the heat of the moment. It's 95 degrees out on the pit road at the
Absolutely.
time, and craps flying all over the place. The race is going on, and you've got to come up with something magical 7 to 15 seconds in the moment. It's not that easy,
Right.
and yeah, there were early trials and tribulations at MRI. We had the luxury, of having the truck series
Mhm.
and you know, for the Xfinity series, and then the Cup series as being the top of the heap there. But
Yeah.
starting her out slow, as we do, as MRN has done with many others. Letting them get their sea legs, but
Yeah.
again, he was quite ahead of the curve because of her media background and training as Miss Sprint Cup, but, and it's just I don't even say I get giddy about it because I just been fun to watch her go. It's been was I remember listening to the Danielle Frys and the Andy Skinners of the world years ago before I got there, and to watch them as they, went on to different careers and excelled in motorsports. So,
Yeah.
but to have my little, piece in the pie with Kim, just a
That's
great success story. So,
that's awesome, and I think it's also a great call out for people to remember that sometimes, and I don't want to speak on Kim's behalf, so I'm not suggesting that there was fear. Uh, However, if I'm in in her shoes. Maybe I'm feeling a little bit of that. I think we all do when we're stepping into something new, even though we might feel like we're prepared. And this is just a different, iteration of something with new skills I'm going to learn. But there's a little bit of fear. But I do think that it's the reminder that sometimes everything we want is on that other side of fear, and we've got to step into it. And if we do it in an environment with leaders who are like, "Hey, we may put you in the deep end here, but we're going to do it with some life preservers, and you got lifeguards around you, and we're going to make sure that you're set up to win, and because we want you to grow." So I think there's a lesson in there for us too, not just as leaders to set our our people up to win, but also for those of us that are called to grow and do something, to step into that and know that you're not going to be perfect at first, but you're going to continue to get better.
Well, I think it is it to really sum that up, a good leader is gonna put some people or somebody or people
Yeah,
in positions to succeed, right?
that's
And
right.
give them tools and the resources and the bandwidth to succeed.
Yeah.
If they fail, that's fine. Failing's part of the process.
Yep.
Fail quick and then move on.
That's right. That's right. See, you just did the proverbial radio. So you took my 30 seconds and cut it down into about 15 and, and nailed it. Thank you, my friend. So
I
so keeping on that theme of growth, right? I mean, there are times as leaders where things are going our way. It's almost like we I want to say we can't not win or do great, but the win's definitely at our back, right? But then there are times when we've got incredible headwinds, and we feel maybe either ourselves or maybe our teams kind of hit that wall. Um, we got to keep going. I mean, we've got to show up tomorrow. There's a goal ahead of us. Have you experienced that either yourself or with a team? And it was there, what approach did you take? Was it an unconventional approach? Was it traditional? I'm just curious, like, how did you help either yourself or your team kind of break through that plateau or that wall to show up and perform when it mattered?
sure thing, like, I mean, not one moment stands out because I think if you looked as a seasoned veteran in the leadership roles through my
Yeah.
career, it happens quite a bit, right?
Hmm.
Through no fault of anybody on purpose necessarily with malice, but it happens quite a bit. So no one moment stands out. But I have shown an ability over the years to be a good mediator under difficult conditions and when tensions are high and compromise might seem impossible. The secret sauce to me has been a combination or a mixture of humility and humor. And that's
Mm.
gotta be the right mix. It
Yeah.
can't be leaning one way or the other, but somewhere in the middle there of taking of a high, tense negotiation, or as you hit it, you've hit the proverbial wall and you're
Yeah.
at a standstill. How do you break through that? I've found that that mixture of humor and humility, along with straight talk, like real straight talk,
Mm.
not filtered, I like to call it radical candor, if
Hmm.
you
Yep.
but when you mix the radical candor with that sense of, humility and some humor, it's
Yeah.
amazing how far it goes, and being kind in the moment, even in tense situations.
Yeah.
I I tell you, 9 out of 10 times, within minutes, we've found a compromise. We've moved on to the next thing,
Mm. Mm.
and learned from where we were on that. So, um, again, it's been I'll stick with that, about 90% success rate on that mixture.
Yeah.
Uh, I would love to have percent. I don't know if that's realistic.
Well, I mean, there's always room to grow, man, but I like that idea. Sometimes we think about hitting the wall and breaking through and that being about performance per se. I think, what I'm hearing you share, which I think is just as important, is there are times in business partnerships and business relationships with either customers, clients, key stakeholders, where we hit a wall in terms of what's expected and what's being delivered, and in the world that we've been in motorsports, I mean, there are people who are investing a lot of money with a couple of commas in there that have high expectations for the
Sure.
deliverable, of what they have been told, right? Because you have your term sheet, your deal sheet, what you're gonna get, and then, like, the real world happens or technical glitches happen or things happen where maybe we can't deliver on that. So, being able to show up in a way that, like you said, is respectful, with humility to recognize, hey, things happen, but we're going to work through this. Let's figure it out. I think that can go a long way, and not only modeling for your team, right? But also to build a relationship, wouldn't you think?
Very much so, and I think I'd
Yeah,
add a layer to that. You mentioned the deliverables and expectations. I think
yeah,
a lot of times in the business world, and I've seen it in motorsports more times than I'm really happy with, and that is not going bullet point by bullet point on the front end of that agreement, if you
yeah,
will,
yeah.
and making sure that to the T, you're
Mhm.
aligned on what that line item means and what success looks like.
Yeah,
You'll read it out loud together and shake your heads and nod, but to say, "Hey," at the end of that sentence there about what the goal is, what defines success for me on that? Because if you take the time, and sometimes that can be a little, little gray areas there, but if
mhm.
you do take the time and work through it, man, does that save you a ton of time on the back end.
Uh,
And then even more so when you get into a rut or you get into a piece of, where you're not seeing things the same way, you can go back to that first time when you went through it together and you have a starting point.
yeah,
Might have got off stray a little bit, but man, that saved so much heartache over the years,
yeah,
You see an agreement, you look at it, somebody redlines it, you get it back, you sign it, but did you really go through it together
yeah.
and
I love
get
that.
deep on it and talk about what success looks like for each of those line items?
Man, I love that because that speaks to that pillar of excellence where it's like identify the standards. Like, what does excellence look like here? So, what do we expect out of here? We don't want to leave anything to ambiguity because when we leave things in that ambiguous gray state, that's where expectations seem to not be managed or people are let down because they thought they were going to get X when you knew that they were really only going to get Y. And my experience, like I always was big on managing expectations and on the front end being able to say, like you said, let's go through the deal points here, and this is a great lesson for leaders as you're looking at dealing with customers or especially when it's a new relationship. You want to go through and explain, like, hey, here are all the things that we are committing to deliver for you based upon the agreement for the dollars we're going to be trading for the service, whatever it might be. We also has to be realistic that sometimes things are going to come up out of our control. And the best way we can handle that is to have open conversation. I love what you said before, with humility, a little bit of humor, but respect, and say, okay, here's our plan to make this right. Okay. And here's what we plan to do to get through this. And I've found in my time that 99% of the time, if you're dealing with a realistic person, and sometimes you don't get them, right? But you 9 times out of 10, the person's gonna be grateful for that, they're gonna recognize it, and I think it does. At the end, it strengthens a relationship that, you wouldn't have had otherwise. It becomes more relational than transactional.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've seen the movie before where I think the worst thing for those of you who are in sales, please listen to this. And I know it's just there might be there's a group of people out there who think this is really strong sales tactic, but I disagree wholeheartedly. And that is
Okay, alright.
if you're selling something and you're talking to a potential buyer and they, say, "Can I put it together a proposal for you?" "Yes. I'd like to see, this, this, and this." And you say, "Okay." And then you come back to do your proposal and you say, "Well, here's this and this. And by the way, I've also done this, 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 and that." Were you not listening? Or they even left one of the steps out.
Right.
They didn't listen. They did
Yeah.
not, yes, you're trying to upsell them and, get your commit, all that. But me on the other side, it tells me that you did not listen. You did not show that respect.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
you're worried about you and not worried about me on the other side here. And
Yeah.
that, but boy, is that a big turnoff.
It makes it feel like if you're on the buying side that, okay, you have your quota and you've gotta try to get these things out there versus, "Hey, here are the 4 things that you asked for. Here you go. is there any interest or appetite to consider this? Because I think it can actually help enhance your need here or the solution. And to say, yeah, great, okay, here's something just to think about, right? But
Yeah, and I think part of that piece that I laid out there, that I left out of the story was sort of budgetary piece of it. Like they said,
yeah,
"If
yep, yep.
you have $50,000 to spend, show me A, B, and C with $50,000, but yet you come back with $100,000."
Right. No, I'm with you. Yeah.
That's the slap in the face. That's the
Surely
slap.
you've got that somewhere. You're a big company. Come on, you know? Yeah.
Yep, yep,
No,
big turnoff.
I know, I know. All right, man. Well, last question I got for you. Something to
Yeah.
share with the audience here about a leadership principle, right? I mean, as leaders, we have a mantra, we have different things that we lean into. But I'm curious if there's one that you've discovered over your path that maybe is a little, again, maybe it contradicts conventional wisdom, but it just works for you. It's something that you've just leaned into, and it's like, no, this works, and it doesn't work for everyone, but for me, yeah, this is a principle that works.
Yeah, the that's a great question, by the way, Mike. All of your questions
Like,
have been standing. That one strikes a nerve too. I think the concept of trust comes to mind.
oh wow,
More specifically, the fallacy that someone in a leadership role, position, or with a heavy title automatically inherits a level of trust with people they're leading.
right,
When in fact, I found that to be not true on a lot for a variety of reasons. Number one, human nature being not all people who are, reports have a grand feeling about leadership, senior leadership positions. And I think that the reality is that as a leader, and that you have to earn that trust over time,
mm,
and not with a deadline. I think you have to
right,
keep earning that trust along the way, as long as you're in that leadership role. And I look back on my career, those names and people that were leaders that stay in my mind. I'm even going back to high school football days,
yeah,
because they did that exact same thing. They earned the trust
yeah,
and they stayed with it all the time. There was no, and it was a two-way street, right, Mike?
yeah,
It
yep,
ongoing,
yep,
but wasn't this, they didn't talk down to me. They talked to me.
yep,
Um, and we learned about each other's pain points. And as you grow in a profession too, by the way, when you take relationships and add that word friendship to it as well, and yes, you can have business relationships and professional relationships, and also personal relationships with people you do business with. And for me personally, when you can get those things to come together,
mhm.
it makes work life
Well,
a whole lot more fun.
man, I love that because I mean that hits a place in my heart as well. That as a leader, we may not have. Well, I could say from my experience, there were leaders that were in my life as I was growing that I didn't have that friendship with, but I sure as heck trusted them, right? And I think that if you build that trust as the foundation, and Stephen Covey's got a great book called The Speed of Trust, and in there he breaks down for leaders the idea that trust is comprised of two elements. There's character and competence, and we need as leaders to be building trust in both. Trust in the character, that they trust us as an individual to do the right thing, and they need to trust the competence that we can get the job done as well. And it is, man, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we've got to earn trust every single day
Yeah.
with our teams.
Some days I'm better at it than others, but I
Yeah.
do, I do. That's a big one for me. And because if you lose as a leader, I don't know that that's right up there at the top of one of the things. You lose that and you're in trouble.
Hard to gain, easy to lose, and tough to rebuild.
There you go.
So I mean that to me is absolute key. And I would even suggest too for the leaders who are listening that might be in new positions, they've been promoted, maybe they've gone to a new organization, maybe you have a great reputation in your industry, maybe you have a line of people that have trusted you for years. But when you're working within the new organization and there's going to probably be change now that you're involved or you're going to be trying some new things that you can't rest on the reputation or the trust you had from before with a new group of people who are now experiencing you for the first time. And I share that from firsthand experience where I messed that up in a big way. I thought that I was in a position years ago where I came in to make some changes, and I thought because I had a track record that would be enough. And I didn't invest the time or know this principle to earn the team's trust first,
Yeah.
then start to build and change so they understood and they could trust my intentions, my motives, my character, my competence, those different things, right? And I think back, man, if I had actually learned or knew that, or had someone take me aside and say, hey, you may want to think about this differently, how
Well,
different that outcome would have been.
It trust me when I say it took me many a year to figure it out as well, and I
Yeah.
yeah, and I have yes, I have not figured it all out, don't get me wrong, but I
We're
think,
human, man.
you know,
Absolutely.
that the domino effect of that trust piece where you can really have a major effect on morale
Yeah.
and productivity and all those things,
Yeah.
it's ultra important.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. Chris, this has been fantastic, man. I've picked up a bunch in here, and I hope the folks who are listening have as well. But this idea as a leader to put people in position to win, it's so powerful, right? Show up, with humility, add some humor, but remember the straight talk, the power of just letting people know what truly is going on, and having ownership in that, and ultimately recognizing that trust and building it, more importantly, earning it every day is just a fundamental part of leadership in this journey, in this epic pursuit. Yet knowing that we're not going to be perfect. And that's the idea of the word pursuit in this, right? It's not the destination. Life is lived in that pursuit to show up every day just to get a little bit better. Chris, I feel like I'm I'm more than a little bit better. I'm a lot better from this conversation. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share your wisdom and journey with us, man.
Truly my pleasure. I know that's a cliche to say, but I wholeheartedly mean that. Thank you for your time and this
Yeah.
platform. It's been awesome.
Thanks, man. And for you joining us, thank you for listening in. If you have any thoughts, comments, ideas, please put them in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this conversation and future ones that are going to be coming up. So until the next one, everyone, thanks so much. And remember, be epic.